जानिब अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा के सदर वॉल्कन बॉस्कर और वज़ीर ख़ारिजा शाह महमूद कुरैशी मुश्तरका न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हैं।
To save and uphold the credibility of the UN system. Mr. President, you did that. We are proud of you. And I'm not saying this as the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. I speak on behalf of OIC, and my country is one of the founding members of OIC. So we are thankful to you for the leadership that you provided. When the President decided to convene this special session, he was of the view that we'll start at 10 and we'll close at 1. He had no idea what was waiting. 103 registrations came, and he realized it's not possible to wrap it up in 3 hours. It would not be possible to wrap it up in 12 hours. So he extended the session, and there was a 2-day session. But the significance of this special session was that while in the midst of the debate, when we were meeting in the trusteeship hall, the news came in of a ceasefire. And the objective that has taken me and other foreign ministers to New York, ladies and gentlemen, was achieved. And the idea was cessation of hostilities. And thanks to your intervention and your leadership, we achieved that. And another unusual step of a tall man in intellect, the President. He sets new precedents and makes a presidential statement. Normally they don't, but you did. Normally there's no podium set up by the UN for foreign ministers like myself to go and address the press at the UN, at the General Assembly. He set a new precedent, and I was the first foreign minister to avail that opportunity. Thank you for doing so. I also had the pleasure of meeting, besides the President, the Secretary General of the UN. He also made an opening statement on this evolving crisis, and I must thank him for his contribution. What we expect, Mr. President, from you and the Secretary General is to continue to play that leadership role and initiate the peace process. What we've achieved is the first milestone. But what we need, and the nation and the Ummah is looking up to, is a revival of the peace process. Because this is a simmering issue. The fire has not yet been fully extinguished. Please play your role to extinguish the fire. And the only way this fire will be extinguished is through dialogue, an understanding of peaceful coexistence, and a two-state solution in accordance with the UN Security Council resolutions. And to ensure, play your role to ensure that timely humanitarian assistance is provided to the Palestinians and those affected in this, under this aggression. I intend to get in touch with the Egyptian Foreign Minister, and I also want to acknowledge the constructive role played by Egypt, the leadership, President Sisi, and yesterday, last night, Prime Minister Imran Khan had a very good conversation with President Sisi. They discussed the situation and what needs to be done in the days ahead. I had the opportunity of hosting the President, but taking advantage of his presence in Islamabad, I briefed the President on the dire situation in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And I drew his attention and the attention of the Secretary General of the similarities between the Palestinian situation and the Jammu and Kashmir situation. What are they talking about? Self-determination. What are the Palestinians demanding? Protect us from demographic restructuring. What are they saying? Human rights are being violated, international law is being violated. You made us promises. They're broken promises. Innocent people are being killed. Help us, protect us. Electricity, water supplies have been affected. Hospitals have been bombed. Red Cross has been targeted. So play your role and protect us. What are people in Jammu and Kashmir saying? Palestinians are saying, Security Council, we are on the agenda. We are an agenda item for over 7 decades. The President, what are the Kashmiris saying? We are on the agenda of the Security Council for over 7 decades. Pay attention. These are international obligations. UN must play that role of responsibility that is due. I also had the opportunity to brief the President on the evolving situation in Afghanistan and the role Pakistan has played in facilitating the peace process and pushing the reconciliation process forward. I briefed him on a very useful trilateral meeting between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Turkey that was convened in Istanbul. And Pakistan is supportive of the Istanbul process and the international conference that should, in my view, take place at the earliest in Istanbul. We will do whatever we can to play our role. And today, I was pleased, and I want the nation of Pakistan to know that. When I met the Secretary General, he said, there is a paradigm shift. He said that today, the international community is looking at Pakistan not as part of the problem. The international community is looking at Pakistan as part of the solution. And that is the dramatic shift that has taken place in the last, I would say, couple of years. And I must give credit to the leadership of Prime Minister Imran Khan for that. I also briefed him on Pakistan's point of view on the UN reform and the Security Council reform. And also the initiative of the Prime Minister for debt restructuring, suspension of debt, to enable the developing world to have resources to invest in strengthening their fragile healthcare structure. Mr. President, thank you. Thank you for your time. And we always look forward to your coming to Pakistan. You are a friend of Pakistan. And in a humble way, today, after this function, in an investiture ceremony, we will be acknowledging that and recognizing your services and the services of the UN system. Thank you, sir.
And may I now request the Honorable President of the General Assembly of the United Nations, Mr. Bhaskar, for his remarks, please.
Thank you so much, Foreign Minister, for the kind words. Also, representing Pakistan in the world in a very good way. You're a well-known figure in the world platform, and I'm a witness that in this last meeting for Palestine, your leadership was very much important. We started with a dinner before the meeting, and you have invited the ministers to a meeting, and I think that was the crucial point, and where a decisive mood among ministers was established. And so the meeting really went smoothly and to the point and with a success. And I appreciate your leadership in that respect. Of course, in politics, sometimes 5 years is too short and sometimes 2 days is too long. In this, we captured the momentum. We captured the eye of the storm. And when the political structure is ready for something, nothing can stop it. The wave of the politics can solve every problem. Here, if the ministers didn't come to New York and connected virtually, we wouldn't have got the result. But everybody saw the minister. One flew 40 hours, one flew 30 hours, one flew 20 hours. They all took the burden to come there, and this is politics, and which was for the result. On my behalf, as the President of the General Assembly, I'm impartial. I have a duty to be impartial. But of course, impartiality can be defined also. For a case like Palestine, I don't think any PGA can stay impartial. So my definition is to help the people, to solve problems, to be fair and just, and that's, I think, impartiality. So I think the constitution in the Palestinian issue is a swift return to negotiations, as the minister also mentioned, with the goal of ending occupation, addressing all the final status, including the status of Jerusalem, and achieving two independent, sovereign, viable states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security, and mutual recognition within recognized borders on the basis of pre-1967 lines, with Jerusalem as the capital of both states. I started saying that this is the constitution of the negotiations. This is the bottom line. Without this, we can't achieve. So I think the first step was this meeting. Ceasefire was a result. It cannot be the end. So from here, we must use this political wind to also continue using our strength in the General Assembly to force the Security Council and also to force the Secretary General, which has an obligation to also look to the Security Council's success stories and the General Assembly's success stories. If there is one success story, it's enough. If there's two success stories, even better than enough. So I think we have a lot to do, but we also have a big room for maneuver. Minister mentioned and also compared the two important things. I think the two problems are the same age, Palestine and Jammu and Kashmir. And I fully agree that this is the case. But unfortunately, the Palestinian issue has more wind behind it, political wind behind it. And the Jammu and Kashmir issue doesn't have the same enlarged political wind behind it. So I think it is the duty especially Pakistan, to bring this to the United Nations platform more strongly. And the PGA only needs an application from a group of countries, and it can be held as a meeting there. But of course, as an impartial President of the General Assembly, I must also reiterate that the United Nations position on Jammu and Kashmir is governed by the United Nations Charter and applicable Security Council resolutions. India and Pakistan's Simla Agreement on 1972, which states that the final status of Jammu and Kashmir is to be settled by peaceful means in accordance with the UN Charter, and this is, I think, very important that we must all remember. I think both parties, all parties, must refrain from taking steps that could affect the status of Jammu and Kashmir. This is, I think, the very important part of how we look at the case. Of course, concerning Afghanistan, as I mentioned in the meeting today, there are many countries in the world. All countries think they are the most important country in the world. And if you look from their perspective, it is true. But some countries are more important. Pakistan is important. Afghanistan is important. Afghanistan, if we can solve the Afghanistan issue, it cannot be limited to Afghanistan. It will have a regional effect, it will have a worldwide effect. So I think what Pakistan is doing, together with Turkey and Afghanistan, is very important. If we don't do it now, then when we come back at a later stage, we will find a different picture. It will be more complicated, more difficult to solve. In diplomacy, in politics, it's always like that. If you miss an opportunity and you decide to come back later, you will find that it is looking different. So I think it is timely, and we appreciate your efforts. We hope that you will come with a success story, and everybody, of course, will applaud that. Of course, Pakistan is my second home in a way. I think not everybody in the world can understand why Pakistan loves Turkey and Turkey loves Pakistan. This is not something economic or built on financial reasons. It's from the heart. It just came out, and we lived for decades like that. So as a president from Turkey, I have an obligation, I thought I had an obligation to come before taking office, and also while I'm the president, to visit this beautiful country. And I just, my mask is today green, and my tie is green, just to, I shouldn't let that go unrecognized. And also, I'm really honored for tonight's ceremony, which I will accept it on behalf of the United Nations, and it is showing that United Nations and Pakistan are working together. Pakistan is honoring the United Nations, and through the President of the General Assembly, I think it's a very important message that will be given, and it will be an honor which I will carry throughout my life. I thank the government and also the President for choosing me for that honor. Of course, the Prime Minister's charisma and widespread sympathy in the world is important for Pakistan. I think what he's doing with the tree plantation programs, putting into effect the difficulties countries are facing vis-à-vis the debt issues, and also dealing with COVID in this country comparatively much better than many other countries, is remarkable. And I think reaching 10 billion trees in some years' time is a very ambitious looking but very correct project. Why Islamabad is so green and why Islamabad is impressing everybody coming here is because these type of decisions are taken. And we have the Pakistani permanent representative, Ambassador Kram, as the president of the ECOSOC. He's doing a great job there. And many of these issues are dealt in the ECOSOC platforms. And he has finalizing his tenure with a lot of important issues. And one is this one. I think the problem is for some countries not debt postponement, but debt elimination completely. If a country cannot pay, what's the use of postponing it? So we will have an LLDC SITS conference with the ECOSOC president before the summer. We will have one for youth, one for the middle income countries. So these are all, I think, and we will be very happy to see Minister yourself or the Prime Minister coming to New York to honor us and give some political perspective to these important issues. Thank you so much for giving this possibility, and I wish you all the best yourself and to Pakistan as a whole. Long live Pakistan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We can now take some questions. I would request if you could kindly introduce yourself, your news outlet, and also indicate whom your question is addressed to. Ji, Adil Bashir.
My name is Adil Bashir and representing Rose News Network. I have a question from Mr. President, UNGA, High Excellency Volkan Bozkır. How does UN see the Kashmir dispute in line with relevant UN resolutions?
Sorry.
How does
वज़ीर ख़ारजा शाह महमूद कुरैशी और अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा जनरल असम्बली के सदर मुश्तरका न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हैं।